This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. It's brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, welcome to the new world. And Star Assurance, they've been creating smiles since 1985, celebrating 30 years of solid partnership. I bring some of your messages to you right away, but this and the next and the other week or so, I'll be seeking your help, that you help me to help a friend, to help others. There is this very, very fantastic woman in town. She's called Golda, and she's an activist and has been doing a lot of good within rural communities, helping them improve their lot and helping those who had no hope at all find hope, where they don't actually need leap to come in. Individual members of the community taking things on our own and helping the society to be the best. Every year, what she does with her organization is to take some projects and solicit funds to help in that regard. This year, she is taking the Nsawam Aduajiri Cluster of Schools Disability Access Project. It will cost about 80,000 Ghana cedis to do. Our friends who are disabled, they need help. And you see, we have a law which is not being implemented about how to create disability access in all of these places. Also, rehabilitation program support for prison inmates, plus hygiene supplies for female prison inmates for a year. Female prisoners who just don't have the basics to use when it comes to these sanitary parts and stuff. And she will need about 20,000 Ghana cedis to do that for the whole year to supply them. There's also the local Osu and Mamprobi markets re-roofing support project, which will cost about 50,000. Northern Ghana Kazigo community briquettes for fuel projects, and small machinery for agro-processing, which will cost about 40,000. And finally, extreme poor and needy orphans partial scholarship for approximately 12 students for 1 year, about 30,000. And next week, I'll tell you about how some of her projects has impacted lives, including education-wise. So help out. The total that we need to raise is about 220,000 Ghana cedis. Let's help. The bank account that you can make the donation to directly is the GT Bank North Industrial Area. The bank account number is 2121 0257 0140. I'll take the number again, 2121 0257 0140. That's GT Bank North Industrial Area. Kitwe Biensa, it will help, and let's put a smile on the faces of people who need help urgently. Thank you very much, and thank you, Golda, with the Helping Our Own Country fundraiser. Thank you very much. Now, Ibrahim Kopa in Tamale says, it is unfortunate that the country has lost a large number of people in the name of road accident just because of brake failure. Without being partisan, this is an indication that the MMT, and for that matter, government, lost its priority in putting on routine maintenance, but rather chose to use the already scarce resource to brand buses. Bonti Benjamin says, as we mourn those who lost their lives in the Kintampo motor crash, we must also reflect on our culture of maintenance and attitude towards duty. Ghana must work again. Musa Abato in Kumasi says, what a sad note to start with. These metro mass transit accidents should be investigated. How come all the buses lost their brakes? I smell something fishy. Oh, the workers of Metro Mass must be investigated. May the departed soul rest in perfect peace. Michael Amening in UK says, Charlotte Osei posturing and attitude is very distasteful and shows that her intentions in providing Ghanaians a credible, free and fair elections on the 7th of November is in doubt. The trust in the EC currently is very minimal, and it's time they make Ghanaians see them discharging the activities in a transparent manner, that the results of the November 7 polls will be acceptable by all political parties. Nana Akwesi Asafwe J. Kwadaso constituency says the EC should put the interest of the nation first in all their dealings and stop coming out with decisions that might cause more harm than good to the peace of the country. Value for the money is what we need in the November polls. Who is this? Ibrahim again. Says, according to Kokoa Idaho, the NDC wrote to the National Service Secretariat to withdraw Dr. McAhin from the committee. Now, in what capacity did Kokoa Idaho, and for that matter, the NDC, ask the NSS to withdraw the aforementioned personality? This is classic example of interference and the perceived biases the EC has towards the NDC. Thank you very much for those messages. I'll find time to read a few more, particularly those you have sent by Facebook. Thank you once again. Now, let me start on this note with Kofi Bentil, because they blew the whistle on the ICH, the Interconnect Clearing House, and Imani said the process had been fraught with a lot of, actually they called it fraudulent. We have gone over this. Last week, we were here on this show, and this show threw up even more questions about the whole deal. Now, for you as Imani, what are the issues that are left to be cleared as far as this case is concerned?
Well, I think the pertinent issue now, the one on the front burner, is whether we are dealing with a fraudulent document or not. But sure, that only scratches the surface. Why that is important, however, is that if it is true that these documents have been doctored and republished,
as you claim,
as we claim, if it is true, if it is, then it's a serious matter. But the bigger issue is more important. Samson, we are dealing with the telecoms industry. And let me make some points so that we get a certain sense of context. The telecoms industry is the most productive industry in this economy. The telecoms industry actually employs more people than the mining industry in this economy. The collateral effects of the telecoms industry in terms of economics and how it affects our society is more significant than any other industry in this economy. The telecoms industry serves people from the president to the least of us. Okay? And that industry in particular, from when they came in, everything has been thrown at them, and they have prevailed. Okay, and there are poignant points where, for instance, we taxed them with CST, and what did we do with the money? We took that money, gave it to somebody who wasted and stole it, and now moved off and stayed in Dubai. Every meter they dig to lay fiber, we charge them. Okay, we have had to rise to their defense when SIM card registration was coming up and was horrendously done, okay? And later we came back and did something. The point we made has been, proven to be true. It's almost moot. Now we've come up with another situation. In the name of trying to do what they call revenue assurance, we are inserting into the midst of these telecoms companies something we call an ICH. Now, we are doing it in the worst way possible. There is evidence internationally that this is not the way to do it. In the Philippines, some of the places where they did some of these things, they've learned the lesson, scrapped it, and gone off. Okay, we can assume that what we want is revenue assurance, and that itself will create situations which we've already seen, the fight between the Ministry of Finance and the NCA. Or we can also go on the tangent that maybe this is not about revenue assurance. Maybe this is about somebody inserting a certain group into this telecoms industry to assure him or herself or that group of a certain constant revenue over the foreseeable future. Now, if you look at those two potential situations, then you ask yourself, what is the effect of it on this country and this very, very important industry? One, it compromises the whole industry. And please, it is possible that when this thing finally happens, the telcos themselves will go to court and try to stop it. Or individual members of society will go to court because there's an anticipatory breach of the contract between you and your telco if somebody inserts a monopoly in their middle. There are so many issues. Now,
do I hear you suggest, for example, that they may have a course of action as far as expropriation, for example, is concerned, a taking of sort? Because the telcos were asked to provide all the machinery needed for the interconnectivity. They provided all of them. They pay huge sums of money for some of these processes, I hear, in excess of 2 million or so. And now, there's a single monopoly that is coming to take over all of these. It means the jobs that we're giving to them have been taken away, even though they have invested.
Yes, and they are going to be made to pay for it. And in essence, they are bearing all the risk, and they are being forced to pay to somebody they didn't choose for a job that they are already doing. Okay? The point I want to make is that there are so many levels that we don't have the time, but I just want to say this. If you are the average Ghanaian working out there, this is about you. And here is the issue. Look, somebody engineers this thing, and because there is no best practice anywhere, or indeed what the experience has been elsewhere is that this is a particularly bad idea, they invent their own process that is rigged to make sure that the person they want gets into that thing. That's what brings the process of the ICA thing, into focus, and which is why we focused on it and highlighted that, look, the fact is that the whole thing is wrong. But because it's wrong, that's why they had to do this. And we showed what they did. Now you have a situation where a state institution comes back with a new document different from what has been put out. And by the way, every document today that is printed from a computer has a soft copy. They could have put out a PDF. Why didn't they put it out? And what people fail to see, and we've written it in our report, is that every computer document you generate, there is something called metadata. The computer stamps certain things on it. We can tell you the date, we can tell you the time, we can tell you a couple of, and we've done it. And we know when those documents were produced. We have names of people whose computers were produced on. The issue that's important is that a state institution, all the way up to the level of a ministry, does things like this, we are not safe. Okay? So we are saying for sure that our document, the one we have, which was leaked to us, is authentic. It has all the signatures. The one that was put out by the NCA is not authentic. It did not even have the proper signatures, or later they were put in. And there are telltale signs. Some of the insertions, when you perforate this thing and you photocopy it, you will see the perforations. And indeed, the parts that were there, you can see them there. The insertions don't have those perforations. It's like kids play. Okay? I worry that my government does that. And I wonder what else they will do. Look, this is the bottom line. This ICA thing, on different levels, it must not be done. If revenue assurance is what they want, there are actually very easy ways to do it. And I am aware that the telcos are prepared to collaborate with the proper institutions to do whatever revenue assurance.
You say, if anything at all, we should take the Nigerian example. Don't monopolize it, and don't compel the telcos
to go to one.
Yes. Because, again, I've had issues raised about, if you were dealing with just one entity, are you saying that there may not be a problem? And if there happens to be a problem, then it means the whole country is going to be down.
Yes.
But if there are more than one may be down at a point, one will be functional. Other than that, there could be a day where we cannot make calls, we cannot access emails.
Because we are all in one place.
Everything collapsed.
And there are even legal issues. To make this acceptable and actually legally feasible, you have to give the telcos the room so they select. Let me explain a bit. I am in contract. It
becomes a business decision.
It becomes a business decision, and it satisfies the contract between me and my telco. Because I'm using my telco and their facilities. So if my telco selects a service provider, for instance, somebody to build masts, we are fine. But when you impose, ensure that there is only one person, indeed the telcos can go to court and I can go to court for anticipatory breach. Now, there are levels of this, and the point that we are making is that the technicals, bad. The procedure, bad. The financial projections about this thing. Do you know the NCA has actually put out information that they will pay for what Afriware is supposed to do? How many times are we going to pay for one thing? The telcos have paid. The NCA is saying they will pay because it's necessary. Why did we require them to do all these things? Okay.
Let me hear from the Honorable Yusuf Shady. There are those who have brought up, and do you remember, there are things that we were familiar with, but of course some of the things we can't deal with them publicly. And Dr. Matthew Puku Prempe,
can't I pick it up? Maybe he will respond to some of the points I'll make.
He will respond to. Are you okay with that?
Yeah,
that he speaks before you do?
Okay. Because it's made very, very serious.
The questions of the belated seeking of cabinet approval to make a law to underget what they were seeking to do. Is that matter really resolved?
It's not resolved yet, but quickly. Just that viewers would get what we are talking about. 2 minutes. Let me sort this. You see, we have 3 categories of calls. We have international calls. Somebody from the UK or from Togo makes a call to Ghana. That's an international call. And then we have on-net calls. An Airtel subscriber calls another Airtel number. That is on-net. And then we have a 3rd category, interconnect calls. That is, if a person from one network makes a call to a number that belongs to another network, then that call is interconnect. All this plenty talk about ICH is about this interconnect. That interconnect constitutes 28% of all the calls made. 28% interconnect calls. Now, the law requires network operators to make interconnect arrangements because the law wants it to be possible for subscribers across network to communicate seamlessly.
Right.
And as far as we know, it has never been a problem. People do not have problem calling from one network to another in a way that is different from the problems you would face calling within networks. So in Ghana, interconnect has been excellent. I've heard people say that, oh, there are interconnect disputes and they cite Espresso and MTN. I think last week, Honorable Felix Osukwachi cited that. That is,
he didn't mention their names.
He did.
Because it's actually in the document.
As far as, but I thought I heard him say that.
It's in the document and there's no mention of any telcos.
Espresso and MTN. But it's been said around.
That's correct.
That is false. The issue between Espresso and MTN was indebtedness. If MTN, I connect calls for you, Espresso, you are supposed to pay me some money. If you don't pay that money, it's not an interconnect dispute.
It's not.
Even if there was
I'm
coming. Even if there was an ICH and a particular service provider does not pay the money they are supposed to pay to the ICH, they may well disconnect you.
Yes.
And that would not be an interconnect dispute. It would be a debt matter. That is what it was. And let people not cite that as a basis for saying that there are interconnect disputes.
And the law doesn't cure this problem.
I'll give you the opportunity to come. Now, while the telcos are doing this interconnect business themselves, nicely, beautifully, government comes in and says, no, I will do it for you. The telcos say, we don't want it. Government said, by force, I'll do it for you. And then government went ahead and appointed an interconnect clearinghouse operator, licensed them, took their money as license fee and all that, and says, go and interconnect. Whether the telcos like it or not, even though interconnectivity, as far as I know, is part of the business operations.
It constitutes 30% of the operations.
In fact,
that's 30.
30%.
No, 20%. Normally,
I'm reliably informed.
Sure. The 30% is when you consider domestic calls.
Okay.
70% for on-net, and then 30% for interconnect. When you consider all calls, international included, it drops to 28%.
28,
That's what, it's okay.
Okay.
But it is to make the point that this suggestion from government that I am doing this because I need to monitor revenue. You are bringing this to monitor 28% of the volume of traffic. What about the remaining
72%?
72%. How are you going to monitor? So this reason that we need to do ICH because we want to protect revenue is false. I think it's misleading. It's deliberate information put out there to justify a policy that is not justifiable. Look, throughout the world, there's not a single country in which a third party compulsorily interconnect calls for network operators. There's not a single one anywhere in the world. Anytime we have raised these issues, government will point to Tanzania. You go there, you do the research, and you see that it is not. There's not a single country in the world where a government appoints an interconnect clearinghouse operator to mandatorily do interconnect on behalf of private telecommunication company. That point has to be made. Now about the law, the point about the law you mentioned. You see, 12 clear months after the Ministry of Communications and National Communications Authority issued a license to an operator with all manner of terms and governing the issue of the license. Then we took them. I was part of those who took the matter to court and said, this is unlawful. It infringes on our human rights. The other time, one of your writers or on My Joy Online said that we are saying there's no law. No, we are in the Human Rights Court saying that there are constitutional human rights breaches. The suggestion that we are talking about a law, it's propaganda being put out to suggest that once they bring this law, then matters should close. If your writer is listening to me, you should pay attention. But just to land on this, when government realized that they will lose the court case, then they quickly rushed to cabinet. Of course, they rushed to cabinet with a bill, and now we have been notified that will be laid next week. So, after doing all the things,
same as
they now want to come to Parliament for a law to back the things they have done in the past. We will cross all that river as we debate the bill government has brought to Parliament.
But you see where that puts you? When you're in court battling an issue and there's a law that is passed, your court case becomes really useless.
We would see the nature of the bill and the court case.
That's the power of government.
Look, that's okay. My objective is not just to frustrate. I want to be sure that things are being done in accordance with law. So if the law now comes and it is able to regularize the concerns I have, that is okay with me. But as I said, we'll cross that river when we get there. Now, what if the law is not passed? Or what if the law is passed with some changes so that in the end, the terms and conditions in the contract that was provided becomes unlawful? Then where does that leave us? So this whole ICH business, I have said again and again, is unnecessary. I think it is a project that has been introduced because people want to direct public funds into private pockets. You don't need ICH to do something private people are doing already. And I would fight against the ICH today. And my last comment on these reports, that one came from, one was published by Imani, the NCA then came. Look, I've put even the Imani one aside and looked at that for the NCA.
On their website.
On their website.
Yeah.
And I think we need a probe to get to the bottom of this matter. Because even the NCA website, I do not intend to make that an important point on this program. But if you go through that report, Samson Amland, if you go through that report, there are indications in there that will tell you clearly that something is wrong. I suggest that Parliament or some other body should commission an investigation into this because it goes to the heart of procurement.
Well, the NCA says all of us, we are making ugly noises. Nothing will happen. Now, I'll ask you, but before I ask you, I've been trying to talk to some of the operators in this industry, the telcos and stuff, and I have a certain summation about some things that they feel might be the way forward, and I want to read that to you, and then after you make your point. I had noted that 30% of the traffic, all the traffic, is interconnectivity. Now,
of domestic traffic. Exactly.
So 1/3 of all traffic, that is what it is. It's a lot of traffic, and it's risky to load one new network without experience. With all of this, considering the number of years the existing operators have had to build theirs, it should be up to the clearinghouse to make a commercial pitch to the operators and other players in the industry of their technical and management capacity and the commercial value of their service. If the licensee is that competent, and they may well be, then it shouldn't be difficult for them to sell their service to the players in the industry. Imposing a private company monopoly on other private companies who have made investments, in this process, the regulator obligating them to do what is being done now may not be the best. And then turning around to introduce a new policy that renders that investment redundant may be arbitrary and could open the government up to unnecessary litigation. Agree?
I don't. And what the telecos are saying is basically much ado about nothing.
I'm talking about my own summation of what I understand they are saying.
It's much ado about nothing. You see, what was the prevailing situation? Telecos have, by themselves, built capacity to terminate their own calls. Okay? And so,
because you enjoined them by law to do so.
Well, to do so. So the challenge, so we enjoined them by law to do so. So they did. And what has been the challenge? The challenge is monitoring the calls they terminate. How many calls come through their systems? How many do they terminate? We don't know. It will depend on information that they provide us. So how do we ensure that we know? Because the resources generated, even though telcos have come to invest in this country, mind you, the resources are generated in this country. And we have a duty to exact the taxes that, on income that is generated in this country. And we must know the income that is generated in this country before we tax. So how do we know?
But you have a contract with
Please,
a vendor to do that.
Please. How do we know? We say, well, let's establish one regulatory system, one platform.
No, how do you know? The answer to how do you know is Suba, which you gave that job.
Well, we gave that job to Suba. Suba is doing it, but we are totally dissatisfied with the level of service provided by Suba.
Oh, have you seen the GRA letters? No, but you must put out accurate information.
Well, you see, when I'm talking,
Yes.
you're talking, but when with Suba
don't make
came up,
misleading
no, I don't make misleading statement. 6
information.
months ago, Suba was in the news here. You have forgotten? You were the one who was very vociferous on Suba being paid monies without work provided. Have you forgotten?
And by the way, we still stand
Yes, I stand by those.
We still
Go
stand
for
by
that
that.
money.
No.
Today you are saying Suba
go for that
we
money.
still stand by
Yes.
that. The GRA has not complained about Suba. It is their job.
I'm not appropriating and
Okay,
reprobating.
thank you. Now
I'm
proceed.
not saying that.
Proceed.
So we were dissatisfied. So we're saying that we need to establish one interconnect clearinghouse to do the work. And what has NCA done? NCA recognizes presently the prevalence of a contract between themselves and Suba. But we need to understudy the activities of Suba and what the the telcos are doing. And so NCA contracts Afriware to do that.
Please, a quick one. Who is we need?
As a
Revenue
people,
assurance is the
as a people.
wait. It's a technical.
I'm talking
important
as a people. I was introduced
the
as
people don't make this decision. Revenue assurance is the job of the GRA working through the Ministry of Finance.
who is GRA?
They have a way of determining that. When you say we need,
We
NCA
GRA.
NCA
The
does not
Constitution
tell
of the
GRA
Republic.
how to do auditing.
Thank you.
The Constitution
Yes,
of the
continue.
Republic says that we establish a system.
Who is we?
We, the people of this country.
You've given it to a
and now,
ministry.
now the executive arm of the we is in government. With the Constitution.
Government has an agency.
And so that government that agency is exercising an executive function.
It's not the GRA that says this. It's
What-
the NCA that is saying this.
Even NCA is exercising an executive function. And the executive authority of this country.
NCA is acting ultra virus
Okay,
in
so-
trying to audit finances.
So I'm trying
Sorry,
to.
sorry.
So there are more issues than just resources. Quality. First of all, the peer-to-peer system is what we want to change. That is the difficulty within the telcos. So if two telcos have a problem of debt and you investigate the debt, it comes to the issue of how many calls did they terminate. There's a dispute as to the calls they have terminated. And so the debt is disputed. We don't want to come to that stage so that Ghanaians can continue to enjoy quality of service. So establish a regulator who will terminate these calls and ensure that at the end of the day, we know how many calls have been terminated by telcos has been made through telcos A to telco B, and what amounts of money is due. The evidence is there. We cannot, as a people, depend on only information provided us by telcos. Indeed, in the Suba case, we're all told that anytime they need information, that is Suba, they have to write to the telcos, even though they were mandated.
Even if we
agree
ask
with-
this question, and I want to put it in a different way,
Okay, put it in a
and see
different
your
way.
reaction.
Yeah.
That currently international traffic comes and goes through the telcos who have been licensed at a fee
Yes.
of $2 million each, and this is paid to the NCA.
Yeah.
The ICH will take over this function. All outgoing and incoming traffic will first go through the ICH before it reaches the final recipient.
Yes.
Again, if the ICH goes down, Ghana will be cut off from the world. No traffic can come in or go out. Besides, I say, this might amount to expropriation.
Well, they are talking about constructive expropriation. And that is, they are not talking about direct expropriation. They are saying that, well, having invested that amount of money and to be out of business and not using, that is taking what, I mean, they deem that investment as a proprietary right, okay? And if someone is taking that proprietary right, it becomes expropriation. So it's constructive expropriation, it's not direct expropriation. And we are saying that by law, we are establishing an institution that will deal with their concern. What do they want? Do they want the people of Ghana to continue to enjoy good quality service? Is that what they want? If that is what they want, we share with them in creating value for the people of this country. And that value can be created both ways. One, we sanitize the industry by appointing a regulator and an operator of an interconnect clearing house. He monitors what happens internationally and domestically in interconnect locally.
30%.
Yes.
What about the 70%?
Well, I'm not talking about 30% or 70%. I'm talking about monitoring calls, video, everything that has got to do with telecommunication. We need to be certain. I mean, we cannot, I mean, if you forgive me, if I'm talking as if I'm an unrepentant socialist, but we cannot allow...
Are you a socialist?
He belongs to the NDC, Social Democratic.
I'm a social democrat.
No, some of them are wild capitalists.
All right,
I'm a social democrat. But we cannot allow resources to be generated in this country to the benefit of private entities without these private entities paying their just and due debts. That is their obligations by tax. And we must know what tax is acceptable on them.
Thank you. And the use of expropriation, I was trying to look for a simpler explanation for those of you who may not understand, but I sought to look for the dictionary to get help. And the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines expropriation as the action of the state in taking or modifying the property rights of an individual in the exercise of its sovereignty. And international law mostly will require that some compensation, good compensation is done. Other than
so they
that,
have to prove
other
it.
than that,
It's not direct, it's constructive.
It's
legal plunder.
Yes. Kweku, you know, last week, you know, was at its best.
Clinical.
In asking simple questions that revealed so much.
Okay.
Kweku, where you sit now, after how many days? 7 days on. Do you find that we have come to some resolution, or what do you think is the resolution?
You see, I'm not about to, you know, doubt the integrity of the management team and the board of NCA.
You said this last week.
I'm also not about to do the same to the members of the panel, the application evaluation panel. I've read some of them, their CVs, their track record, brilliant. These are sons and daughters of this nation and have provided service. But we are now looking at a specific case of this evaluation and the report.
Right.
Within the context of the sequence of events and circumstances leading to the publication of that report by the NCA on its website, I am clear in my mind that the process has suffered a fatal injury in terms of integrity. The integrity of the process has suffered a fatal injury. And it's about time we bury the fatality.
It's dead.
The process is dead, in my opinion. It's left with burial service. Look, nobody is going to be able to convince me that something has not gone wrong.
Specifics.
Listen, look at the sequence. The NCA, when the issue came up, when the earlier report, which was described as fraudulent and all those came up,
But
he
he's
held the press
retracted, he's
conference.
recounted his words.
No, a deputy minister for communications on this show last week told us that the NCA report, and the one we all were holding,
Fraudulent.
Yeah.
was fabricated.
Felix was reacting to Imani describing the report
on
which
another
had
platform.
come
Yeah.
off this platform. He was describing the report which Imani described as fraudulent
Fraudulent.
manipulation as rather fraudulent in a pack of lies.
fabricated. And the minister then, the deputy minister to be precise, had a copy that did not have the signatures of the panel members
Right.
and did not have the signature of the chairman and the board chairman's comments. The NCA decides to publish what they claim to
He
be
has explained
authentic.
that he printed a copy and did not have the signed.
Let me give the
signatures.
deputy
Yeah.
minister the benefit of the doubt. It's not my key point.
Okay.
The key point is NCA and the two things. The NCA, at their press conference, did not produce the report. They brought a certain email correspondent that had no relevance, in my candid opinion, to the issues that were being raised about overscoring or was it overvoting. So that had no relevance, and it was targeted at only something to do with Suba, when people were looking at the order of overscoring that goes across. Now they publish the report, and it is minus the chairman's comments and signature. At what point in time did the chairman's comments and signature appear in the documentation? Okay, look, they would have been more consistent if they had included the chairman's comments and signature with the panel's signature with the one they had put on their website.
So they doctored a document.
Fantastic. In my
Period.
candid opinion.
One
Look,
of these two is fraudulent.
nobody is going to convince me. They were not that smart. You see? So nobody, and because of that, the integrity of the process is undermined.
Fatally
The NCA
flawed.
says
Fatally.
nothing is going to happen.
Fatally
Well,
flawed.
Forget about all your
That's
noises.
marks of arrogance, of power.
Yes.
And it irritates me.
And to treat
Okay.
the telecoms industry this way,
And with all this, so for me, to be honest, as I said, they are men of integrity. They are women of integrity. But the process lacks integrity.
we share Kweku's point that the members on the AEP may not have much to answer. I think they did their job.
Right, let him finish the point.
And I'm beginning to get worried because I wasn't well educated and well informed on these matters. But gradually, I'm learning and I'm listening. And I'm beginning to get a bit worried. Not too long ago, we were discussing the new bill. And it's looking as if the
That's the interception.
Yes, it's looking as if the monopolization, the monopoly, may not help matters.
Will not help.
It may enhance the risks to privacy.
Yes.
Because a single point created is easier
Right.
to
To
do
tap
something illegal with it.
And the telcos have a contract between themselves and the individual
Yes.
subscribers.
So I'm beginning,
Kofi mentioned that.
I'm beginning to
The contracts were
make,
subsumed under the
I'm
new
beginning
arrangement.
to make a fundamental shift. I think this whole process should be looked at again. We should abandon the monopoly. We should go for a new bidding process or whatever and get things done properly.
What do you
what
say?
monopoly-
I know
what
there's
do you-
a risk.
What do you say to the
ICH
to the lot of noise? Sorry for the lack of a better expression. That accuses persons who seem to speak against the process of doing the hatchet job of Suba.
Yes.
That they've gone to take money and all of those things, and they are seeking to ensure that Afriware doesn't get it.
Well, it's a reflection of some level of intellectual impotence. It's an attempt to invite us into the realm of absurdity.
Yes.
They are running away from the substantive issue.
Yes.
It's an evasion.
see.
A strategy for evasion. You evade the issue. Bring in all those names. And last week we dealt with it here. We said we are not looking at those things. Let's look at the substance of the issue, the principles, the procedures, and the legal regimes coming with it. That's what we should do. Whoever benefits ultimately is immaterial. In any case, aren't we asking for a renewal of the whole process? So, where's the guarantee that Suba will win or Afriware will win?
Exactly.
You see, I'm told Afriware people, they are Ghanaians, okay? And young guys. And it hurts that you come to a situation where you have to analyze things in such a way that will hurt some patriotic citizens, but perhaps it's in their ultimate interest that the right thing is done. If you are a beneficiary of a transparent, accountable process, look, you can
That's
stand...
more durable.
Thank you.
Well,
Look, we have been accused. Let me respond to that. We have been accused.
Wait.
Actually, what
Hold on,
Kweku is saying is simple.
Instead of reacting to Kweku, can you answer this?
Yeah.
That the only reason government needs to know, the volumes of calls is for taxation. Is that not the case?
Yes. It's for revenue.
You made it.
It's for
Yeah, it's the same
If that
thing.
is the case,
Yeah.
why does the government not rather tax the top-up vouchers that are sold?
No, that's another source. That's another source. But we want to know, because there's a law, the communication service tax. We want to know how many calls are being made in this country.
So what I'm suggesting to you, you get to know and get your revenue long before the call is made.
Well, that's the source. I'm just saying, we're just looking at the source. Presently, he's suggesting that you should tax the cards. I'm saying that presently we are looking at the situation where calls are terminated.
Okay. You're
But
looking for better assurance for the revenue.
Kweku is saying, I agree with you. There are two things. He's saying that let's look at the integrity of the selection process. And he believes that the selection process was compromised. And it raises very fundamental issue about the way they went about it.
NCA says...
Now, if that is the case, and that is why Imani is in court, then they are rightly, they are at the right place.
Imani is not in court yet.
But who is in court?
It is Occupy Ghana that is demanding answers. If the answers don't come, perhaps...
In Parliament they said the matter was in court. I don't know.
No, there's an aspect of it which is in court.
Okay.
That's a legal regime.
Okay. So whoever is in court, if that person is challenging the process, because like I've always said, matters of this nature, there's a presumption.
Okay.
That is right.
A rebuttable presumption.
So it's a rebuttable one.
Okay.
So if they are in court and say no...
Thank you. 30 seconds and then 30 seconds to...
Just to make the point, yes, the purpose for monitoring traffic volumes, as Honorable Husseini said, is to provide revenue assurance that we are taxing them correctly. So we go back to Kofi's question. In that case, why is GRA not leading this process?
It's not about service, it's about revenue.
You see, at the moment, there's an arrangement, and that is managed by the GRA, where when you buy a recharge card, as soon as you load it onto your phone, it is picked up by the vendor that works with GRA, Suba. So that record is available. Why is NCA doing something that has to do with revenue?
Right. Just some 20 seconds you can help. Make a point. Yeah.
We have not taken a penny from Suba.
Okay.
We still don't think Suba is a squeaky clean company.
Okay,
we
thank
have
you.
issues against them.
Thank
we will
you.
always do what is right for this country, and this is not right for this country.
Thank you very much. My outfit, as always, some people are describing it as MPP. Thank you. MPP is not a criminal organization.
But it's not
my outfit.
Yes, disclaimer.
They don't have a black.
My outfit, as always, is provided by Latida. And you can contact Latida 020-433-6444. That's 020-433-6444. For those of you who are applauding it instead of looking at the colors, you can call them and get one for yourself. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kweku Bako. He is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Kofi Bentel is Vice President of Imani Ghana. Alhaji Nusaf Husseini is Minister for Roads and Highways and MP for Tamale Central. And Kweku Kwating is MP for Obuasi West and member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. This show is repeated at 9:30 p.m.